Okay, thank you, Trishana. Thank you very much. And my name is Daragh Knox, and I'm the founder of Knox Business and Career Coaching and Mentoring. And I work with professionals and leaders in the areas of career development, strategy, and workplace well-being. And I used to say I was Cork-based, but in the last 6 months, I can now say I'm Dublin-based because I'm now based in Glasnevin. The primary focus of the work I do is in terms of enhancing personal and professional impact by way of soft skills and strategy and self-awareness. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to go through a little bit of background in terms of where I work, and the people I work with. You may see some common experience here, and then I'm going to go and do 3 cases of people who went through a significant career transition and how they handle it. An awful lot of the people I'm meeting today are going through some stage or some way of a career transition. Let me tell you what they usually are. You're moving location in terms of either country, or you're moving across a country. You are being promoted upwards. You've just been made redundant and you're looking for a role. Or you have just come out of the education system and you're looking for a job. Or there's a change in family circumstances which meant you've stepped out of the workforce for a while and now you're on the way back in. So, well, Jesus, what am I doing? Here you go. So to start, okay, so 2025, and when I was growing up, which isn't really that long ago, but long ago enough for it, the landscape to have entirely changed. Ireland did not provide choice to its citizens. It was a fairly limited selection, or you got the boat, or you got the plane. Nowadays, it's entirely different. So there's a huge amount of choice out there. There was a wonderful article 6 weeks ago from Mick Clifford in the Irish Examiner where he talked about expectation amongst people born of choice and the connection between it and anxiety. So Mick was telling us that, look, it's a wonderful country to live in with 2.8 million people working. But the amount of choice and the expectation that people have now is giving rise to different levels of anxiety in Ireland than had been in the past. So you take that, now he talked about other things as well, but I thought it was a useful reference point for us. You take that, you take a housing crisis, you take a rising cost of living, you take all that's going on in Gaza and all that's going on in Ukraine, you take all the environmental considerations we have, they muddy the waters too. So where is our expectations after that? And what role do they play when we're in the cusp of a career transition or if we're in the middle of one? So, I think I need a hand. This ain't flicking over for me. I know the content of it. The next slide has a slide that shows the people that I'm working with. The single biggest area of people that I work with is in the area of career dissatisfaction. It represents almost 1 in every 5 people I work with. And there are 5 common themes of career dissatisfaction in this country, one of which is working remotely. That sense of not being part of a team is starting to impact upon people. The second one, and this isn't in any particular order, is the sense of financial well-being. We took a job with a certain package that was there. Lo and behold, the cost of living increase came in, and suddenly we're not as well off as we once thought we would be. The third one is lack of developmental opportunities in terms of upskilling provided by employers. The fourth one is a lack of an ability to get promoted, which is stunting our own self-development in the workplace. And the fifth one is the role of AI. Is AI going to take our job or is it going to bring us more? That's the single largest area of career coaching that I work in. The second largest area is promotions. So that emotional intelligence that goes along with moving from a tactical operational role into one of senior leadership. We talk about working with people so they can manage through ambiguity in a better way. The third area for work that I work on is the students. So many students here today, they're coming out with masters and they're coming out with a degree and they don't know what to do. I've got a case study in particular to talk about that later on. So phenomenal amount of students that are talented and skilled and they don't know what to do. They don't know who they are. I do a lot of pro bono work as well, which represents a substantial body of work for my fourth part. And then the last area that I work in, an awful lot of ladies wanted to go back into the work, people coming back into the workplace after having a baby or after having reared their families. How do they do it? How do they characterize themselves? How do they bring themselves forward? And how do they grow that resilience that allows them to deal with the setbacks that may come along the way? So in terms of the areas that I work in, they're typically the type of areas that I work in. One of the areas that I have not talked about there, but is coming up when I meet the people here now, and is in fact when I do in 26 and look back at 25, redundancies, people getting laid off and what it does to them. So I work a lot with that too. So in 2026, when I look back in 2025, I see a lot of work in that area as well. So that being said, and I've a no better, Trishona, I have no better way to move this, have I? Oh, Jesus, there we go. Okay, back. Now, so thank you, three cases cloaked in confidentiality. People that I worked with in the last 18 months now, how they handled their career transitions. Three of them are wildly different. And I'm going to walk through what these people, not only what they did, but what they experienced and where they got to. How they found their best path at a time of change for them. This guy is about the same age as myself, a little bit. He's in his early 50s. He found himself in a tricky enough spot in the sense that he was working away as a national account executive both in Ireland and overseas in Holland and in Germany. It was a fulfilling enough role. But that job changed. And it coincided also with a very serious breakdown in a relationship that he was having. Now he's kind of in a quandary. So he's a very senior guy. He hits some very tricky personal circumstances. Morale is affected, anxiety rises, his ability to concentrate changes a lot. So I met him below. I do a talk below in UCC in Cork, and I met him on that course. I said, Daragh, I need to get back. I met him at a time where he was 8 months out of work, and one of the first words out of his mouth was, Daragh, I'm finished. 49 years of age at the time, I'm finished. 49 years of age and all the success he had in his career, and it was over, in his point of view. So we got to work in a couple of months after that. And really one of the first things that we had to do was to re-establish a professional persona. All of these small things that had happened to him and large things to it accumulated in his sense of perspective, his sense of being optimistic, his sense of being able to contribute in a more meaningful way to the economy, just like he did in his past. This is a guy that was looking after serious sums of money and serious projects around the world. So we went about re-establishing that. We used to meet regularly in a place near Thurles of an afternoon, and slowly but surely he started to refine his professional persona. The second thing that we had to do with him was he would spend so much time talking about why he wasn't working that we actually had to begin to not talk about that, actually talk about all the successful things we did. So we displaced some of the painful, hurtful things that had happened to him, not to bury them, but to remember that we're in a professional conversation now that's focused on his career, and now we needed to talk about how he was successful. And so we did that. So we re-unlocked all of the things that he'd done. Now, by the end of it, by June, and this is more of a hallmark for him rather than for me, but his transition was a tricky one. Being laid off at a time of extremely tender personal circumstances. By April, he was back sending his CV out. By June, he was working in Switzerland. So he managed the transition. He managed it to a very, very difficult set of circumstances. My role in that is really just to be there with him as he goes through it. But he had all of this talent in him anyway. It's just the accumulation of experiences set him back. So self-awareness came to the fore, an ability to characterize his experience, and critically for him, the big one for him, the last guy who made Roy said it, his network. He had a beautiful spreadsheet of names in Excel. That was his network. He never talked to them. He started to talk to his network. Pick up the phone. How are you getting on? Are we going for a coffee? The coffee, there's a match on next week. Will we go to that? That's how he did it. He's now working. He's off to Germany. I met him last Tuesday. He's off to Germany now next week. He's back up and running. He's got a good job again. This guy, very, very different, but in some ways similar. This guy is a guy coming out of university. He came out of NUIG in Galway. I think they call it the Atlantic University or something now, sometime in the last 3 years, with a 2-2 and a Bachelor of Business. So he comes out and he says to himself, "Jizzy, Mac, great, now I've got my bachelor's degree. I'm out of NUIG, TUS, I think they call it now, and here I go." The problem with him was he started to send out CVs and nothing came back. So his reliance upon articulating that he's qualified now should be enough so that the people who are looking for good workers will immediately flock to him. Didn't quite work like that for him. So he couldn't quite see what was going on. So he got to work. I actually met him in Jobs Expo in Galway 2 years ago. So I met him. I've been working with him for 9 months now. And effectively what he began to realise was that it wasn't enough for to say that I'm really good at finance. It wasn't good enough for him to say, it wasn't enough to be able to say I'm good at marketing. So he had to go and establish himself. And one of the first things he did was, "Daragh, I need money. I need to be working." So rather than thinking he was going to come out with his degree and go straight into the largest financial services company in the world, he said, "That may not happen. I need to be working." So he took a sideward step. He got a job in a restaurant. Now he's participating in something. Now he's earning minimum wage, but he's out and working. The second thing, once he had done that, so now he's not lounging around as much. The second thing, once he'd done that, we looked at upskilling. What's he actually got to offer here? Well, actually, Daragh, in my business degree, where there's a strong emphasis on finance, I prefer HR. Now what's he going to do? I'm going to do a course. So now he's doing a 2-month course in the evening, working around his commitments to athletics, because he's an athlete, and also his commitments to the restaurant that he's at. So now he's upskilling. Now he's focused again. So what is he doing now? He's now focused on those areas that he wants to develop in, and he's now beginning to realise that the degree is not enough for him in this case. He needs something else. He's gone about after it. I was talking to him Friday, he's just finished his second interview with a banking institution in Tuam. So what was his big learning? Not to be lying back on his degree thinking that people are going to come to him, that he had more to do to get to where he wanted to get to, that he needed to line up his line of sight and he needed clarity on how to go about it. And he's getting there. So sometimes you might think we're going to stride off into the distance when we get up in the morning. That may not necessarily, sometimes it's baby steps. The key point here, you keep at it. This is another career transition is coming from a very, very different perspective, though. This is a person that's very highly educated. She's working in the civil service here in Dublin. It's a very, very responsible job. She does things for us that we don't even see, but she's out there working away. And she's been there very successfully for bones of 15 years. She does kickboxing. She has a young family. It's the kind of person you'd walk past in the street every single day of the week in Dublin. However, she's highly academically qualified. So she's got her degrees and she's got her masters. Everything is in place, but she's going for the promotions. And the promotions ain't coming for her, so she goes twice and it doesn't work out for her. That's tough now. That's tough because you're in an organisation where promotions don't come along too often, and if they don't work out for you, it's a really big blow for your morale. You go back for a second bite of the cherry, it still doesn't work out, also tough. A promotion up the third time, she deliberated on what to do. She got in touch. She said to me, "Daragh, what are we going to do?" I said, "Well, you need to make your mind up. Are you going for this?" Imagine how hard it's going to be now. Third time, potentially no out there. It's going to be a fairly tough blow to take. She said, "No, Daragh, I'm going to go for it." So I said, "Grand." So we got to work together. One of the things that we got to work on was how she saw herself. She was framing herself in what she did in a way that was downplaying her ability. When you get promoted, the company, the organization is looking for something more. Unfortunately, they had released this wonderful rules of leadership thing, which meant we could read that and we could start to craft our responses around that. So actually, in this case here, what happened was because she was traveling so much, we spent 5 sessions together over 10 days. She's dealing with the most fundamental, primal issues you can have. She's afraid. She's worried. She's scared. She's ashamed. She's guilty. You would not think any of those things to look at her, but she's crippled by them. But we got to work, and she went after that position. She was also very concerned about one part of it, and that is that she saw others and their behaviour in that role that she was aspiring to get to, and she didn't like it. And one of the things that was holding her back was the perception that she would have to be like them. That's not the case. You're allowed to be yourself. As long as you're following the rules, as long as you're being ethical, there's a place for every personality. I was sitting home on the sofa a couple of months back and the phone rang, and she had got that promotion. She got it finally on the third attempt. She's absolutely delighted with herself. So here is somebody entirely different from the other two guys, highly qualified, young family, female, flying it, crippled with fear and nerves and anxiety and shame, the setbacks coming back to haunt her, the fear of taking it on again and what it would mean to her, and she's going off and doing it. The self-belief to go and do it. The potential that that lady has, and there's more to come. So, sometimes our expectations can cause us to hold back a little bit. That I'm only worth this, that I can only do that. That is not always the case. So, I don't know how we are for time, Trishana, but just to say this, our expectations play a role. Our expectations are playing a role for us when we come into a transition. All the transitions are different. The key features of managing a transition well, when we look at what's going on here, our network, confidence, resilience, being open-minded, upskilling, all of those things. It takes sometimes the hard yards to do them. I'm very hopeful that there's enough, at least anecdotal evidence of these people that live amongst us on how they did it. This is down to them in very, very tricky circumstances so that they could go and find a way to meet their needs. Their expectations, if you think of the first guy, the expectation, I will never work again. Is that too much? Wrong. The second guy, the expectation, I have a degree, that's good enough. Wrong. The third one, sure, look, they said no to me. My shame and my guilt are appropriately placed and I should only stay at this level. Wrong. Expectations, whether you have absorbed them, internalized them, or inherited them, check them. And it could be a nice way for you to start to take on your career transition in a meaningful way. Thank you very much.